All right, so the topics we're going to cover, and this is titled Introduction to Computers. And so you see our list of topics. Going to get started with computer hardware, kind of the foundation. Where does this activity live? And then getting involved in, we're focusing on Windows 10. Yeah, Windows 11 is out there, but when operating systems are introduced, it takes them a while to become more and more popular. It's not as simple as changing your socks or changing your shirt, because there's so many things that are plugged into an operating system, and we'll get the idea of the operating system. Excuse me, just a little bit of itchiness there. Um, so and the functionality I'm going to talk about is going to be common in Windows and that interface. And so interface, of course, how we work with the computers. And so one of the areas is the desktop. And of course, how do we get the work done? Through software. And there's kind of two, we can break it down into two major flavors: the underlying software, operating system, and the software that we use to get work done. And it might be little tiny tasks, or it might be much bigger work. Of course, a big area that we work with now in this age of computers is through browsers. And the idea of a browser was we could only look at it and not touch, not really do much with it. Of course, that's evolved considerably. And then another class of software that gets work done, it's work against you, unfortunately, is malware. Bad. So, and then kind of adapting software, hardware. So it's something that is not intended to help you, is intended to hurt you or take advantage of you. And then applications, again, going back to software. And then some of the mechanics of working in that environment, managing your information, files and folder structure, some of the things we do, email, work with social media, and next steps. Again, reintroducing myself. My name is Chris, last name Dominguez. I am an instructor, and I deliver classes on software, Windows Office software. I also teach business skills, so writing, grammar, presentation skills. I also specialize in project management, something that I've done through a great deal of my career. And Lean Six Sigma, more of a specialized project management intended for improving an environment. And currently, am both doing instruction and also working with our technical support group in the background. So first off, let's get started with the idea of, hang on a second, I'm going to go ahead and reset something here. Got it. Okay. And so getting started with the idea in the background, getting started with the idea of how do computers get started? And just very, very quick history. And because I've been around for a while, I've seen some of these things go on, which is, from my standpoint, kind of cool, seeing it develop. So we get the idea of Microsoft, one of the big players in our computer world. Back in '75, gets started by Bill Gates, a man named Paul Allen, and right now they are I believe, the world's largest software producer, and they've just acquired Activision, Blizzard Entertainment, so a whole gaming set, and they have grown both through acquisition and also, acquiring existing products and also capabilities, and then building those out, and also developing a lot on their own. And they're the foundation and the working software of the majority of the computers in the world today. And they've set a lot of standards, conventions, huge impact. And alongside that, another company, going back to that period of time, same kind of period of time, Apple was formed by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, and and they have been rivals. They have been cooperative partners, and so in our world, there are several major flavors of I'm going to say microcomputers, small computers, Windows, Apple, Linux are a big flavor. But if you look at those, Windows, Apple, and then Linux, much smaller proportion. And so we can see the symbols there, and top picture, it's got Bill Gates in it, and I believe that's Steve Ballmer, one of the former CEOs. And then right below that, a picture of a mature Steve Jobs. And go back to 76, and these guys look like kids. And then what we see is down at the very bottom, we see a representation of the World Wide Web. So that's something else that's come about. And so what do we do with computers? Basically, and I want to go back and start with the idea of what we really do is we process information. And that could be a budget, that could be a resume or a letter. So we're processing for some beneficial purpose. Now, in order to do that, we need to be able to retrieve information, and we need to be able to store information as well. And so that's an inherent part. And as the technology has evolved, it's gone from very, very simple storage and retrieval systems. And I'm thinking of paper cards and paper tape and magnetic tape. And then, of course, later on, the magnetic discs. And of course, so that architecture is still kind of there in the background. But now where do we store it? Lots of times we don't even know where the physical storage is. It's out there somewhere. Or it could be on our systems. And again, it could be stored in several areas and retrieved several areas. And as you go forward, you may be involved with that. Or it may be, I don't really care. I just know that how to go find it and how to use it. And that's perfectly fine. All right, World Wide Web, and with that capability, we can reach out across the world. So you get that picture down at the lower right side, that we're connected globally, and it's a very robust interface. So back when we got started, the internet, different. It's that's the whole larger scheme. The World Wide Web is a part of that. The World Wide Web provides that graphic interface. Early on, it was text-based. Early on, you had to memorize all of the commands. And now we can point click, go help me find shopping, go help me research medical services, go help me set up a vacation, let me communicate with my business partners, my coworkers, my family. So we can do a lot of those through the internet, and specifically World Wide Web, www. Oops. Okay, got a little confused there. So what is a computer? How, what makes that up? And I've switched over to my keyboard instead of using my mouse. And so we see the idea of a computer, and we can think of it simplistically. There's some computer hardware, something tangible. And up on top, we get the representation, that kind of boxy thing that would be the main processing unit, and that's got the electronics in it. And then we see the screen and the keyboard representing input devices, so I can get information in, and also an output device so I can get information out. And there's several kinds of output devices, and we'll kind of cover some of those things. And so down at the bottom, we see we're breaking it into hardware and software. The hardware, without those instructions, programmed instructions, won't do anything. And without the hardware, the software has nowhere to do its job. My background personally is primarily in software, although in order to do my job, I also have to have knowledge of hardware. In fact, my first real job in technology was writing diagnostic software for military systems. So taking a look at a little more detail, and then we see, again, what's called the system unit. Sometimes people will call it the CPU. It's really not the CPU. The CPU is inside there. And again, that's going to be where the electronics are, and often the storage device, which is going to be a drive of some sort, usually a hard drive, may have other drives in there as well. So that's where we're going to actually physically often store the information. Then, of course, if we're connected, we can store it to a network or store it to a larger network, and we often refer to that as a cloud. There's the screen, and that's an output device again, and a keyboard input device. Another input device is the mouse. And so rather than having to move around that interface using a keyboard, arrows, up arrow, down arrow, tab, 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 we can use the mouse and graphically just move it around. Other out device, speakers. And of course, you can put in a headset or other audio. Now, what's not shown there is another input device, which is a microphone. Another input device could be a camera. And of course, I'm using that to capture my image and demonstrate that to you. And another output device is a printer. And so you see the hardware, we've got input devices, output devices, and we have the storing and the processing devices that'll help us get the work done. But the way we get it done, of course, is enabled through software. Again, that's my background. So let's look at that in a smaller package. And you kind of go, wow, not as much, not as big. What's happened is, of course, is miniaturization. So what we're able to do now is put it into a smaller package, have a lot of the same things, they're just packaged differently. So the upper left-hand corner, and often we're going to call this a laptop, and it's variously called a laptop or a notebook, or there's some other words. Tablet can be, put into a form factor of a tablet, taking away the keyboard. And then we also see things like convertibles. So I've got a small unit, and I flip it around, and now the keyboard is basically, it becomes just a stand, and now I'm just working off the screen itself. So in the upper left-hand corner, we see input device, headphones, speakers, basically, microphone, and then something called a USB port. USB is how we can connect other devices. And the U is for universal. We'll talk more about that later. Ethernet is a way that we can connect to communications systems. And then external display, I can plug in a bigger monitor, so I got a little portable one that I can carry around, or I can go into a conference room, plug it into a larger system physically. And of course, lots of times we can make that connection through other means, through a network, either through wireless or a wired connection. And then of course, we need to be able to power this. So you see that DC in jack. Okay. And then opened up, now we see the screen. Also at the top of the screen, little tiny thing, a little dot for a camera, a little dot for the microphone. So back earlier on, those were much bigger items. And then of course, built-in speakers, you see the physical speakers side by side. And then what you see is, and you realize, we're kind of seeing the left and right side of this laptop. Both sides of the laptop have USB ports. So we're kind of very, I'm going to say taking advantage of the little bit of space that we have to add features, functionality. And an important idea about a laptop is it is portable. And back in the day, whenever the day was, most personal computers were those desktop units. Now, I want to suggest most personal computers are laptops because they're very, very capable. And if I want to bring it in, put it on my desk, plug it into more monitors, larger sound system. And that's how we do a lot of our work. And personally, that's how I do a lot of my work. I used desktop for years, and at one point thought I would never rely on a laptop. Now that's all I use. And I have several of them for different purposes. Okay, moving on. So part of the challenge of working with computers is keeping up with language. So let's talk about the idea of a USB port. So look at the list and you see cameras, printers, smartphone, drives, USB hubs. Okay, so disk drives store and retrieve information. Sometimes we can only retrieve, depending upon the nature of the material that's being used. USB hubs, so I can plug in to a device where then I can plug into multiple things. Think of it like an extension cord, an electrical extension cord. So instead of just plugging one item in, I can plug in 2, 3, 4, 5. In fact, on my laptop now, I'm plugged into a USB hub that now I can plug in 7, 8 items, and then I've got several ports that are just dedicated for power, so I can recharge things. And also, what's happened with USB is it becomes simpler to use. So more compact, can do more work. So instead of just having a specialized plug that only works with certain kinds of printers or only works with certain kind of devices, this particular hardware interface has been adapted so I can work with a wide list of peripheral devices. All right, another idea is HD, high definition. So looking at the screen that you're watching me on, the image is actually made up of a series of dots. And again, go back in the day, there were only 600 by 480 dots. And that made up all of our displays. So literally you could get close and you could see a letter A and dot, 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 dot. And now the dots are much, much smaller. And that's going to help create much finer pictures. And so sometimes you'll see things like designation of 4K. So that means it's got 4,000 dots per inch, as opposed to just a very few hundred. So the images look nicer and nicer and more clear. And of course, we've changed the methodology of putting those dots up on a screen. Another kind of connection, off to the right, you see the picture, and that's a modular connector. Looks like the old phone connectors, and it's got a little clippy, so you clip it in, it stays in place. This is a little bit wider, it's called an RJ45. And again, we would see this mostly in earlier in desktops. And now, of course, we, in our work environment, we're going to, or even at home, we're going to plug in our devices in a wired manner using this kind of connector. And so Ethernet specifies or leads us to a certain kind of connector, but Ethernet also is a protocol. And so it's a computer communications protocol. And just like we're talking, when you're in a conversation, what happens is one person may start talking, another person may start talking at the same time. So a big issue is, now we got a talking collision. Well, then we both go, oh, no, you go first. No, you go first. Well, computers don't do that part of it. Well, what they do is they back off and then they start up again after a random amount of delay, and whoever gets there first wins and gets their communication. And then the other side gets to communicate. And that's part of Ethernet protocols. And so we've taken that idea from a wired environment, and now in a lot of areas, what we have is either totally wireless or maybe a combination. And in my home office, I have a combination. In my work office, we use a combination. But some environments, most people will connect wirelessly. Okay, another device that we would use is a mouse. That's an input device. And you see a representation, taking a look at it, notice it's got a wire on it. And of course, we have wireless mice. And of course, when they're wireless, what it means is we're using radio signals to connect into a communication device that's going to broadcast and receive information through, again, radio signals, but using Ethernet protocols. And this particular device has two buttons, a left and right side. Let's go ahead and bring those guys up. And what we're also going to do is we're also going to move the mouse, and the mouse is set up to detect movement. Back in the day, it had a little roller ball in it, and it could say, oh, I'm moving back and forth. Oh, no, I'm moving side to side. And now they're usually optical sensors. And so we have a primary button, left side, and a secondary button, right side. That's because most people are right-handed, so we use our index finger as a primary tool, and then the other button kind of as a secondary tool, and we assign particular tasks to those. Fortunately, we can also switch those around. So in this particular mouse, we see something that wasn't available in original mice, and that's the scroll wheel. A lot of what we do is we're on a screen and we want to get down further in the screen. And so we can say, okay, move me down. On the keyboard, I might use a down arrow, but here on the mouse, I could use the scroll. Now, in fact, that scroll button or that scroll tool, scroll wheel does more than just move us in the screen. I can also often click on it. I can also often push side to side on it to change its functionality. And again, what we can also do is we can switch the primary and the secondary mouse buttons. Now in the Windows environment, the primary mouse button lets us select something, lets us start up programs. I want that document, I want to open it, and the right button offers us shortcut menus, and that's a convention that was established by Microsoft. All right, let's go ahead and move on. And another input device, of course, is the keyboard. And so you can see the keyboards look fairly complex, but starting off with the basic keyboard, ABC. So we've got letters and numbers. And so we have so many characters. And then we start going, you know, what I need is a capital A, or I need a at sign or an ampersand or something, special character. So I'm going to use a shift key. Okay, so I can shift the meaning. So now that we've got that kind of idea, then you see that we've got, you can see the Alt key, and then you can see a label for control keys, and we use those again to shift the meaning. So by using the keys and a shift, keys and an Alt and also a control, and sometimes I would actually use an Alt control and then press a key, or a shift Alt and then press a key. I can come up with different combinations, so that'll help me issue different instructions. Give me a letter A, or select all my characters in my whole document. So Control A will do that. And then, of course, across the top, we see the idea of an escape key. And initially, the escape key was used to say, now I'm going to escape. I'm going to give you a command. Now I'm going to go back giving you regular words, but it's turned into, let me stop what I'm doing. Let me escape from what I'm doing. Function keys often were pre-programmed, and same thing with all of our other keys. F1, and this is they used to be pre-programmed within just a particular program, but now F1 in the Windows environment typically is our help key. F2 is our edit key, but I can change the meaning of those again by using combinations of Alt and Control. So Alt F1 or Alt F4. And that's part of the learning curve, lots of things to learn. Moving to the right, we see that we have some navigation keys. So up, down, left, right, cursor keys. And then we also have, you can see kind of on there in that middle sort of area, home, end, and then some other work, insert and delete. So page up, page down. So actually navigation keys and some specialized task keys. Up on top, we have the idea of a print screen or pause. We don't use those so much in the Windows environment. Yeah, they're still there. Yeah, they're still used, but not so much populated. But it does kind of, again, going back into earlier days, help us know that that's how we were able to say, okay, stop the program for just a moment. Now I'm going to do something else. Or let me go in and capture what's on the screen, which of course, that could be, I've got something in the middle of work. I need to catch it in the middle, or I need to capture that information. And there was no way to run a direct report, but if it was on the screen, I could capture a picture of it and then transfer that to a file store. And then of course, numeric keypad, which is reminiscent of the old style 10 key. But again, doing double duty. On the 10 keypad, I have numbers and I also have navigation and function capability. Upper right hand corner of the keyboard, we've got some indicators. A little light shows me that I'm using numbers on my 10 key, num lock, caps lock. I am poised to only have capital letters from my keyboard, and scroll lock has to do with controlling the screen. Again, we don't use that very often, but still there. Anyway, and then of course the Windows key is a new, relatively new kind of shift key and command key introduced in the Windows environment. Analogous to that is the command key in the Apple environment. Okay, and the Windows key, you can see upper right-hand corner of the screen, is going to help take us to what we call the start screen in the Windows environment. Now, so we've talked about the components. How does it actually work? How does it fit together? And what we see is we're going to input information somehow, some way, and that could be keyboard, mouse. We could also pull it in through, retrieve the information that's already out there, from a drive or from a hard drive or from a storage in the cloud, and then put it through a processing process. Processing capability. How about if I say that? And so that's going to be a combination of the processing electronics, and in the heart of that is going to be a CPU, central processing unit. And now our computers often have several of those instead of just one. And so they can take advantage of performing an instruction. And while that's going on, let's go perform another instruction. And then we also break it down into performing graphic related instructions. Of course, back in the day, it was one chip and it was doing everything. And then there's other electronics that will help power that. And of course, how is it directed? It's directed through software. So you can kind of think of that as a brain function, and then an output. So let's display it on a screen. Let's send it to the printer. Let's send it over a network, and consequently, you can see Chris sitting in front of you, delivering this image, and you can see Chris talking, and that's part of an output. So software, I said earlier, we break it into two basic areas. And so you see the idea of the operating system. So that's the underlying software. And people think of it as, oh, yeah, I'm using Windows. Okay, that tells me you're in the Windows environment. And so Windows environment provides the foundational functionality that it actually talks to the computer hardware directly. Back in the old days, when we would write software, we would have to write software that either directly would talk to the computer hardware, or we would have another layer that we would talk to that interface layer, and then that would talk to the hardware. So if I press the letter A on a keyboard, it would go to that interface layer. Well, Windows is that interface layer. So when I write Windows software, I can write a line of program code, and I can say, make a message box, and here's what I want in the title, and here's what I want in the message, and here's the options that I want, and the Windows environment will help draw that out. I can give it some other specifications: how big, where is it going to be, what color is it going to be, and those kinds of things. But that's enabled through the operating system. So we see representations of the most popular operating systems for small computers. Again, Windows, got it, Apple, and Linux. And they have similar software sets available to do the actual work, spreadsheets, documents, word processing documents. But because they are different operating systems, then we need a particular version of Word or Excel to work in those environments. And I don't think Linux uses Word or Excel directly, but again, because we have much better capability, for example, internet connections and World Wide Web, Linux can use Excel on the cloud. Is it the same Excel that Windows uses? Similar, not identical. But is it compatible in terms of bringing information in, putting information out, storing it? Yeah, the answer is yes. So very much more robust than it used to be. So when we look at Windows, we need to be able to understand the interface. How do we work with it directly so we can tap those capabilities? And one of the first things we're going to do is when we turn the computer on, well, let's turn the computer on first off. And then as the computer starts up, and we call that, boot up the computer, or back in the old days, it was a bootstrap. And the idea was pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps, which is just a bizarre idea when you think about it. But one of the first things we're gonna see when the computer is ready to go is what's called the lock screen. So it's just a screen that just holds us there. Okay, I'm ready when you are. And it may provide you some basic information like what time is it, what's the day. You can turn off the computer from there. You can't do a whole lot, but it's kind of a placeholder. And also, this screen may come up after the computer has been sitting there for a bit. So you see, pops up when if you're not using the computer, or it's just been left on and kind of times out. The idea is related to security. Again, back in the day, you'd walk away from your desk and you're working, and the computer has access to your files, the information that you have been approved to get to. And that may or may not be appropriate for somebody walking up. And you may or may not want them to see, for example, payroll information. And so one of the security things we put in is a window that will, after a while, it'll just pop up. So you can turn this on, or it'll come up by itself. All right. Let's go ahead and go to our next. There we go. So to continue using, that's what I was looking for. Continue with the, moving on, we would tell the computer, hey, we're here, and it says, okay. So re-identify yourself, or identify yourself so we can go forward and use your established set of privileges. So log in, sign in. So there's a representation of a sign-in screen. And that's where we're going to enter in our name. And so right now it's showing me named student, and then a place for me to type in my password. So between those two, we can call those credentials. I've been identified. In the background, I will have a certain set of privileges, both with my individual computer and in a work environment with my work information. All right. And then once we passed that, one of the things I want to do is get to my productivity software. So I want to work on a Word document, or I want to move my files around. And so I want to get to a start screen or my basic menu system. Let's go ahead and get to the next slide. So I want to get to the desktop environment. Now, desktop environment is the analogous to you come into work and you sit at your workstation, you sit at your desktop. And so, and you kind of go, well, I can't do anything here. Yeah, you're right. It's not a lot going on, but think of it as a blank table. Got it. And a blank table, maybe you got some plugins, you got a desk lamp and a stapler, but can I do real work right away? No, there's some more things I need to do. Okay, so one of the things, and you see, I would get access to work through an icon. So that little icon, that little picture, is going to help link me to a capability, a program. Okay, and then down at the bottom, I've got a special area. It's called the taskbar. And within the taskbar, it's got some capabilities to, again, open some doorways for me. So think of it like I've walked into a big room and I've got door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. Door number 1 takes me to the utility closet. I can turn on the power, lights, the sound system. Door number 2 takes me so that I can go and get my work supplies, my craft paper, my scissors, my glue, and door number 3 may take me so I can get to my other toolkits, my other tool capability. So, but in the meantime, I just have a room with a table in it. Let's go ahead and move forward. So this is a screen that loads in. So lock screen, login, desktop. And when I use the Windows key, or click on the keyboard, or click in the lower left-hand corner, that little tiny representation of the Windows key, I will get to my start menu. And again, that strip at the bottom is called the taskbar. Important to know that, how that functions, and it is broken into certain areas. So one of the cool things that I can do is I can pin icons for programs that I want to use or capabilities I want to use, and I can also unpin them. There's a limited amount of real estate there, so let's put things on there that are going to be helpful for me. In the notification area, well, we're going to get more info on that. But I want you to see that this, again, is very flexible, and it's intended to make it convenient for you to get into the capability that you need to use. Hang on one second. Let me go ahead and do just a little bit of here we go, a little bit of catch up on attendees. So in the taskbar, so talk about that just a little bit. And the start, and take a look on my screen, and there's a little red arrow pointing to the start button, okay, left-hand side, and that would be the entry to get to my start menu. So list of capabilities. Let's go to the next area. And then search, new arrow. And this wasn't part of original Windows, but certainly is a key feature in our more advanced Windows, especially Windows 10. And what can I search for? I can search for software programs that are on my machine, documents, how to get to the aspects of options, settings within the machines. And if it doesn't find it on this computer, it will also help me locate it on the internet, provided I'm all connected. So it's very, very helpful. Learning how to search is effectively really helpful skill. And then another part of Windows is not only do we have the keyboard and the screen interface and mouse interface, but we also have an audio interface. And Cortana is Windows virtual assistant, like Google Home, Alexis from Amazon, so we can use voice control. And you may or may not want to use it. So again, turn it on or not. Next area, part of Windows, and this is another cool part of Windows. Back in the day, let's contrast it. I would run word processing. Okay, done with that, turn that off. Spreadsheet. Okay, done with that, turn it on. Database. Okay, done with. And now what I can do is I can run those capabilities in different windows, and we call them, they're technically called tasks. So I can go from my Word document to my Excel spreadsheet to my database window to I'm also watching a YouTube video or listening to music. And so I can go to the screen, the window that will allow me to do that piece of work, allow me to have access to that capability. So Task View is one of those ways that I can switch between those applications, those apps. And there's other ways. Now, a confusing part, a tough part about working in our Windows environment is there's often several ways to accomplish a task. So, and why isn't there just one way? Because we have different working styles. And so to make the overall system more capable, more flexible, we've added, here's an option. Task View didn't used to exist. And what I would need to do is I would need to use an Alt-Tab key to move from program to program to program, or I'd click on an icon to move from program to program. So there's, instead of one way, there's 2, 3, 4, sometimes as many as 8 ways to do a given task. And part of your challenge is going to be finding out, how can I do this, and what's going to work best for me in a given circumstance. And then let's go ahead and bring up some more. And then we see the idea of applications. So I've got that arrow, it's kind of pointing to an empty area, but right to the left of that empty area is the symbol for the Edge browser. That's an application. Windows File Manager, Windows Explorer, that's an application, more utility. It's not, I'm not going to write documents with it, but I can store things. I can open up my electronic file cabinets. And then and it's gonna, I can store the icons for easy access, but it also puts the icons on the taskbar when I'm running programs. So you kind of go, oh, I'd like to start a board. Oh, it's already running. Or I've got 3 Excel documents open, 3 spreadsheets open, but only one icon. And again, back in the day, I would have 3 separate icons. But now I can point to the one icon and it'll say, oh, let me give you you see a preview of the 3 windows that you have open. Which one do you want? So it's constantly evolving. And then notification area, kind of a utility. So it's what time is it? We're very time driven. What's the date? We have to know that all the time. What's the status of my computer system? We're going to see more on a close-up. Moving on. So let's go ahead and push in there. So this is our notification area. And again, we see date, time. Actually, let's go ahead and bring up the rest of these guys. Actually, let me back off from the notification area and go back up on top, because that's the words that came up. Recycle bin. So we see an icon for the recycle bin. What's a recycle bin? Trash can. Okay, so think of your office trash can or a trash can at home, and I want to get rid of something. So I'm going to go ahead and take it and put it in the trash can. Is it gone? No, it's in the trash can. So it's, if I want to, I can go and retrieve it. Good idea to retrieve it soon, because what we know is more things will get piled on top of it. And maybe as things get piled on, it'll get crushed down, damaged, or maybe somebody, put something wet in there and it kind of gets down. So the analogy works pretty well. So when I delete something, it's not gone, gone, gone. It goes to the recycle bin. But if I just leave it there over time, behind the scenes, Windows has actually said, yeah, Chris isn't using that resume anymore, so I'm going to leave it there, but over time, the storage area that was assigned to it is going to be reused for something else. So over time, that gets damaged. Doesn't get damaged right away. So if you want something, basically, go and get it pretty quickly, and then periodically you take the trash out, you empty it. There's our notification area. In this case, what we're seeing is some information about the operation of the computer. It's telling me my speaker is on. And oh, by the way, it even gives me a little piece of that picture to say, and the volume is up. Oh, you're connected to the internet, or you're connected to a network. And oh, by the way, you've got a great connection. That typically is going to be for a wireless network, just like phone bars. And a battery, oh, that tells me we have a laptop, and I've got a battery, and here's the charge level. So even though we're often using that laptop at our desktop, we could be running from the battery, or we could be running plugged in, but at some point we're going to need to recharge the battery. And then of course, do we have notifications? That little up arrow caret also lets me have access to other notifications of programs that are running. And then getting on to a network. So several ways to get onto a network. A big way that a lot of people use is Wi-Fi, a wireless network. In order to get onto a wireless network, you need to have the network name, and then the network password, the Wi-Fi password. And so that means you can go to Starbucks or a grocery store or a client's office, and they can provide you access to their wireless network. Now, is it the same capability that their employees have? Probably not. They probably got it separated, so we have what we would call a guest area, but a wireless connection. And it still might be connected to the internet as well. So this is the local connection, and then perhaps it's connected to do an internet connection. Typically, that's what we do. So I'm coming to you, actually, this particular laptop is connected both wired and wirelessly. It's just what I like to do. Most of my equipment here in my home office is connected wirelessly. Another way to do it is plug it in through that Ethernet cable. So special cable, special end, special plug on the computer, special plug in the communication devices. And it used to be that wired was always faster than a wireless network. Not so true now. And then one of the ways that we test, do I have a connection all the way out to the internet? Bring up a web browser and type in an address, a URL, Uniform Resource Locator. And you see an example, Amazon.com. And if I am able to connect, hey, everything worked. I can also perhaps test the speed of my connection. So speedtest.net, very popular website, and that'll plug you into a known set of servers, and then test how long did it take you to actually go out and be acknowledged in terms of time. So we have a pinging time, and then also how quickly can I transfer data. So it'll give you a pretty quick test showing you can get information to you at a certain rate, and you can load it up at a certain rate. Let's go to our next slide. This is a representation of our start screen and our basic menu system. Hang on one second. I'm going to pause for just a moment. And what we see in the menu system, I've activated it by pressing the Windows key on my keyboard or by using the mouse and clicking on that Windows symbol in the left-hand corner. And again, you see the search come up. But on that start menu, there's a list of programs, applications, shortcut apps, alphabetically. And how many do I have on there? Some of them I installed, and some of them were built into or came with the computer. So I think of them as kind of utilities. So one right now under the letter C is calculator, and then camera, and let's talk about connections. So that's one way to get to my app selection. Another way is through tiles. So you can see there's a big blue tile for Microsoft Edge, or cat a corner from that, there's a tile that has a little tiny symbol for Word, Excel. So I would click on that tile, and then I click on slightly larger versions of the Word tile or Excel tile to start those programs. So whichever way is more convenient, again, demonstrating flexibility. So list of apps. We can also use a tile interface. And one of the things I recommend is get in there and go take a look and explore. So most of the time, we're not going to do any damage. However, there are some good practices and bad practices as you become more familiar with computer technology. Please pay attention to when people say, oh, please don't do that. Oh, please don't go there. Things that you don't want to do when the computer's in the middle of working, don't turn it off. Now, having said that, laptops have a battery, so they do more of a graceful shutdown. But a desktop computer, and people used to do this, hey, I'm done for the day, and they just reach over and turn things off. Well, in the Windows environment, it's often putting things away and getting more information and doing some work that you don't see. So if you just reach over and go, blink, turn it off. Want you to think about you being at your job and someone comes over and says, Chris, go to sleep. And okay, Chris, wake up. What was I doing? Same kind of idea, except that it may actually have been in the process of working with your hard drive, in which case the information may have been scrambled. So be careful about that. And then, of course, going out to, I want to say, risky areas on the internet. My recommendation is be very cautious about that. Just like walking into any building or walking down any street, some places you really, really want to go, need to go. Some places you really don't want to go there. And some places you don't know, or I don't know if I want to go there, but I need to get. So a little bit of risk involved. Exploring the idea of working with Windows. And let's go ahead and bring up the idea of multitasking. Now, multitasking, I can do several things at once. Most of the time, folks, in real life, for people and for computers, we do one thing at a time. Now, having said that, we just do them really fast. So I can be working on a document. Hey, let's go over to my spreadsheet. Hey, let's go over to my database. Or I could have a reporting program in the background and it's gathering data, but I'm typing on a Word document. And to me, it looks like they're actually running side by side. But what they're really doing, folks, is it's going a little bit of work here, let's come over here, do a little bit of work here. And it goes so quickly, it switches. Having said that, now let's treat it like it really is happening all at once. But for sure, I can have multiple windows or multiple programs open. So I need to be able to switch to those different tasks. Upper right-hand corner, that's a representation of task view. So those little white blobs represent different windows. Now, on the right side of that, and this is a cool part of task view, is not only can I see what I'm doing now, but I can also kind of step back in time. What did I work on yesterday and the day before? So that's a timeline. And what I might want to do is, hey, let me go back to that, find that document I worked on yesterday afternoon, my resume or my financial report. And Windows is set up not only to switch between that particular capability, not only switch between tasks, but also go back in time and retrieve work. So let me just step right back into that resume or step right back into that financial report. Now, if you've moved them in the meantime, okay, all bets are off. You're telling the computer go over to location A, but you've already moved to location B. It'll go, can't find it. So, and again, is that the only way to move between tasks? No, it's just kind of the latest way. So it's kind of the newest way. It's kind of like, how many ways can you order pizza? There used to be one way. You go to the pizza store. Oh, now I get a telephone. Now I get two ways. Okay, so I can call them. Okay, and I can call them from a phone that's plugged into the wall. And now I can call them from my car. I'm on my way in. I can get on a website and contact them. And anyway, how many ways? Lots of ways. Moving on. So using more than one application, switching, I can put them. Oh, and the other thing about Windows, let's look at the lower right-hand side. And it's kind of hard to see, but there's kind of a window in the background. Actually, there's two windows in the background side by side. And it looks like I'm watching YouTube on the left side in the background. I'm doing something else on the other side. And then I've got a New Horizons window. Let me manage my classes. And so I'm able to not only switch between them, but I'm also able to arrange them so that I can effectively visually work with them side by side. And sometimes I will do that. I'll have a web window open, or let's say a Word document. I've got an Excel document. I really want to look at the information literally side by side. And of course, I can plug in multiple monitors. My particular setup right now is I've got multiple monitors. How many windows do I have open? Quickly, about 7 right now. So I've got Zoom, I've got my browser, I've got PowerPoint, and then within the Zoom, I have several windows open, PowerPoint, and a couple of others. So task view, we saw that it kind of looks like a film strip icon. And so part of, again, another thing to learn, how do I recognize these? How do I really learn about it? Several ways. Come on in, take a class, go out to search through the internet, wealth of information out there. Some of it's going to be a document. Oh, let me go out to a Microsoft site. Tell me about using Task View in Windows 10. Go out to, and people will offer up that information. Hey, my name is Chris Dominguez. I'm a consultant. I will tell you how to use your computer. Let's talk about Task View. Let's do a podcast about Task View. Oh, let me make a video, put it out on YouTube. So there's lots of ways to find out about these things. Again, many, many options. What's going to work best for you? And what we see in also in task view, we get the idea of a thumbnail, and we also see that in our task bar. As I point to the different icons, it shows me I can set it up so I can point to a representation of that spreadsheet. So it's a shrunk down version. Same thing in task view, a shrunk down version, a thumbnail. So rather than just a name, oh, this is Excel, and here's another Excel, and here's another Excel. Oh, this is, oh, I recognize that. That's my budget. That's my, oh, that's my health record. That's my, and because you can see the content, it's just kind of a small version. So in Task View, we can point and click and open up that particular program or that particular document. We can right click and we have some other options. And you see that idea of, hey, close it out, I'm done with that. Or snap it over to one side of the screen, snap it up left, right, or bring them up side by side. And then another thing I can do, and let's go back to that kind of image at the lower right-hand side of my screen, and I see in the background 2 windows side by side. What you don't see is there's a dividing line called, guess what? A divider. And I can say, I need a bigger picture on that image on the left-hand side, so I'm going to scoot the other guy over a little bit. So now I've got more room to work on my spreadsheet, and I can still read the information, but I don't need the window to be quite as big. And those are important skills. Folks, as an instructor, part of my overall intent and purpose is to make it so that you can get your work done pretty quickly, as efficiently. And so there are some good practices, and one of the practices people have is working with small screens. I tell people, make screens as big as you can for your purpose. All right. So navigating the desktop, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to create files and folders. And files is the way we store information. A Word document is a file. An Excel document is a file. Folders is where we store them. And desktop is a place that we, like your actual desktop at home or your desktop in your office, that's where I physically, or like the cutting board in the kitchen, this is where I'm doing the work. So again, we get this representation of software, and you see across the top, mostly most of this is Microsoft software. So this is how we're going to get specific work done. And one of the things in selecting software, select the software that's going to work, do the tasks, do the work that you need to do, and also be able to exchange information as you need to exchange information. So for example, folks, if you come into a work environment, lots of times you're going to be working with Word, and you're going to create a docx document, and you're going to be able to send that to people or share it with people, and they're going to have software that can. So great, I can create the document, format it the way that I want it to be. I can have the capability to share it, and that's going to be enabled through software, and of course, based on hardware, also in combination with the operating systems, networking capability. But this is what we would typically call productivity software. So software, program that does work for you. Applications helps you to perform a productive task. And I already mentioned operating systems, and we have ODOS. ODOS is still out there. Disk operating system, that was a big deal when it first came out. And then of course, Windows, we're still using that idea of disks, random access. Prior to that, we had what was called sequential access, and that would be like a cassette tape or even a paper tape or a big reel-to-reel tape, and I would have to read the tape, and if maybe the information was stored in the middle of the tape or at the end of the tape, so just store, just read. But with a disk, we can get to the different rings pretty fast, and also we can store things randomly. So just give you a little background information on a disk. Do I store a whole document all together? No. On a tape, I probably will. So I store here's the document, takes so much tape. And if I make a change, I have to go and restore that document someplace. On a disk, what I will do is I will have a reserved area for a document. So let's say I create a letter and it gets stored in one area, and then I go back and add more to it. It might be stored right next to the original piece, but more likely it's going to be stored in a different part of the disk. Go back and modify it again, store it in a different part of the disk. Go back and modify it again, store it in a different part of the disk. But to you, it looks like it's all together because there's mechanisms, protocols, conventions that say, go find the letter and now go find all of its pieces, put it up on the screen so that Chris can take a look at it, read it, modify it, and go off and print it, send it to different people. And that's available through disk systems. Too much information, sorry, and then applications. And again, all these do different kinds of work for us. Email is communication. Word processing is for making letters, reports, spreadsheets, calculation. Now, and just what you want to do is you want to use the software that is for that particular work. I knew a guy, nice guy. He was a super whiz in in accounting, and he would actually write his letters using Excel. And he was directed, and as the IT director, I was directed to convert everybody over to Word. It's like, you're going to have to do something drastic to make me use Word. Well, we did. And eventually he got to like Word, but initially he knew Excel so well. He did all of his letters in Excel. Is that a good idea? No, it's not designed for that. Can you do it? It's hard, Can you make a gourmet meal in a microwave? I'm going to say maybe you want to be able to have a stove and a regular conventional oven or a convection oven or something like that. But yeah, you can do a lot of stuff with a microwave. I think you get the idea. Okay, and taking a look at kind of the idea of the internet. I've already mentioned World Wide Web or internet. The internet is the underlying structure. And within the internet, we have different capabilities. And one of those is the World Wide Web. We also have news protocols, so delivering news. And there's other file transfer, FTP, but World Wide Web is what most people use to accomplish file transfers or interfacing. So systematic interconnect networks. The idea of the internet, folks, it actually started off as a defense program. And the idea was that if we had networks and we had a catastrophe of some sort, and it could be a military action or it could be bad weather, earthquake, fire, flood, those kinds of things, it could break the links of the physical network. I could run a wire from my house to my job, my house to the University of Washington State. But if something happens to break that wire, the network is down. So what they did is they came up with a way to interconnect network components. So now if I'm connecting to the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio, I'm in Southern California, I don't actually know how it gets there, but I know that it will find a route to get there. Oh, and let's try and find the most efficient route. And it may actually send part of my conversation one route and another part another route. And so that internet it was designed to be a self-healing network. Now let's put protocols on top of that, World Wide Web. And that's kind of where we're at right now. Web is one part, and you see documents, resources, very robust. What can you do on the web? It's getting to be another question. What can't you do on the web? And it turns out probably one of the big statements is, okay, I want to do this on the web. Let's figure it out. So can you communicate? Yes. Can I do a Word document, Excel document? Yes. Is it the same as having the software just in my own machine? Not necessarily, because there could be time lags. The presentation interface may not support it quite as well, but it's really, really robust, meaning capable. So, and we use a web browser as that interface. And web browsers have, instead of simply just letting you read the information, oh, here's a little article, put it up on web pages. Now we have, here's the information, here's the options, here's the calculation box, here's way to go get more information. And oh, by the way, let me offer you insurance. Would you like to go on vacation to Hawaii? So all those things are built into web browsers now. Popular web browsers, and we see Internet Explorer, which is an older program that's going away. It's being phased out in favor of Edge. Firefox, that's the original Netscape. Is that really? No, I have to think about its lineage. But actually, I'm not sure now. Now I've forgotten its lineage. Anyway, so, but another popular program. And of course, Chrome is the most widely used browser at this point. So we've had browser where Safari is from Apple, but they're all very, very capable. And in fact, you might want to choose a browser because you like the way that it works, or it has particular security features, or it has particular, maybe it has characteristics that make it more beneficial. For example, Edge is really known for being robust for displaying images and providing shopping access. It's really aimed a lot in functionally at commercial interaction. Chrome is, and they're built on similar technology. They both use a Chromium engine in the background. Chrome got started with a Google search engine, and that's how Google made a lot of their money, is through search engines, and actually through directed search and through advertising. So, but try them out. See what's going to work best for you. Try them out. See what you're being told to use because of the needs of your organization, your purpose. Okay, I'm going to take just a moment, take a look at my timing. Got it. We've got places to go, things to do. All right. So, and then within the browser, we're going to use search engines. And again, for Chrome, primary search engine is Google. For Microsoft Edge, it's Bing. And then Yahoo, again, was a search capability. Doesn't have its own browser. Does it have its own browser? I don't think so. But it does have a search engine, which brings up the idea, oh, I can, within a given browser, use the search engine of my choice. I can go to Chrome and use Google search engine, or I can go to Chrome and use the Bing search engine. And you see DuckDuckGo. What a weird name. What's that about? Well, that particular search engine is really, in its capabilities, it's focused on privacy. So search engines often, they're going to help you find things, but one of their purposes is, we got to pay the bills. We're going to capture your search history. We're going to help monetize that by offering you things that we think you might want to get involved with, purchase, and we may be able to help direct you to people that will pay us to bring you to their door. So a DuckDuckGo doesn't do that so much. So use a browser to get to the search engine. All right, and then Microsoft Edge, of course, is an example of a modern browser. Kind of a simplistic interface, but what you see is at the top of the screen, we see an address bar. Actually, let me go ahead and bring up the rest of the screen. So we see an address bar where I would either type in the address that I want to get to, or it'll display the address that it's actually gone to. And the address bar actually does double duty as a search bar. And then I've got an actual search bar in the middle of the screen with a little magnifying glass. And then what's also doing is it's presenting, says, hey, this is what you've been doing online, Chris. Here's, and right now it's just showing Office. Here's some things that you've been to recently. Would this be faster for you? And then down at the bottom, it's got some links. Okay, so, and that's an example of a search bar. And in this case, we're typing in, let's say 5K, and that's going to be short for, 5 kilometer. Oh, 5 kilometer race. I want to learn how to train. How many miles is that? Training for beginners. And so it'll give you some, part of what search engines do will give you a suggested search. So it'll help facilitate you don't have to figure it all out. Given what you put in, it can offer suggestions. Again, makes it very, very powerful. So what search engines do behind the scenes is they scour the web and look for a way to help facilitate your search. Again, I type in 5K, but what I'm really interested in is, let's say, an overall training plan. Or maybe I'm looking for a schedule of 5K races that I can participate in my area. Okay, so I might type in 5K races near me. So this is a very powerful portion of using a search within a web browser. So again, we have a search bar inside the window, and we also have the navigation bar, and the navigation bar often doubles, and usually now doubles as another way to search. So if it can't find the address, it'll go, oh, you're actually trying to search for it. Now, folks, sometimes, pro tip, sometimes what you want to do is you want to go, and a lot of people do this, they'll go, take me to New Horizons, or take me to, take me to Amazon. And so the browser may say, oh, you want to go look for Amazon options, as opposed to going to the Amazon website. And so you end up going through a slightly different path, and sometimes it's not effective. So sometimes you actually have to specify the exact address rather than have the search engine find it for you. Although search engines are very, very good, I would say even clever, but sometimes you actually have to specify the address rather than going through a search engine. And it can be very frustrating, which I usually can get there with a search engine. Why can't I do it now? Because the search engine doesn't have that specific information. And also behind the scenes, it's really using a longer string of information. It's actually using a different way to get to that address. But so it may not get you to exactly where you want to be. All right, moving on. And then again, more areas of a browser window. So in this case, we see this search bar. We see, in this case, this is representing Bing. Here's some categories that you might want to look in. And what it tries to do is, as you tie into Microsoft, it tries to capture your preferences and offer you things that you would be interested in. So if you go out and look at some of my web searches, or how about, and another search engine, believe it or not, is YouTube. Let me go look up topics. You would see, oh, Chris is interested in World War II historical things, and he's interested in hiking and bushcraft, and he's interested in aviation. And so those are the things that tend to come up for me. My wife, when she goes out searching on the web, different things come up. Sometimes I peek over her shoulder. It's like, oh yeah, we're very different people. So URL, Uniform Resource Locator, that's the actual address. Now behind the scenes, it's numbers. It's all numbers. 192.168.2.1. Oh yes, colon 572. So it's giving you an address. But that's not friendly for people. So what we do is we use Amazon.com, which translates to behind the scenes, goes to a lookup table and finds that number address and takes you out there. So everything has to have a unique address, and behind the scenes numbers. And back in the old days, you had to know those numbers. Okay, and here is how we would reach New Horizons, www.newhorizons.com. And quite frankly, typically you just type in newhorizons.com, it'll fill in the rest of it. So what is that other part? HTTPS : HTTP, Hypertext Transport Protocol. Oh, that. S for secure. There you go. And then www says World Wide Web. Okay, it's going to be that nice graphic interface, as opposed to FTP, File Transfer Protocol. And then Bing is, you can use it in Internet Explorer, you can use it in Edge, you can use it in other browsers as well. So again, find the tool that you like. And then the idea of links and hyperlinks. So a hyperlink, a link, there you go. And we often just use the word link. Hyperlink is the more correct term. And we see the words images for Hawaii. And those are just words. And then we see down below more images for Hawaii, and it's underlined. Is it just underlined? Maybe, but maybe not. Well, here's how we can find out. when I point to it with a mouse pointer, my little mouse pointer goes from that arrow to the hand. So another clue about computers in the Windows environment is when the mouse changes shape, it changes jobs. So now the little hand is saying, if I click there, it's going to take me to that page. So it's going to take me to that address, that URL. So a link. Now, does it take me to something called More Images for to Hawaii? It might, but really this is something that the person who created that part of the web page or the programmer controls. So here's the label, and behind the scenes, here's the link. Pro tip. Great deal, click here. More information, click here. Save your, secure your computer, click here. Do you really know where it's going? Be careful. Often when you point to those, it'll actually tell you the link. And if you don't recognize the link, maybe you kind of go, maybe I don't want to go there. So watch out. Okay. And navigating Internet Explorer, again, we would navigate the search engine through the web browser program. So it says, we would open up the browser, and they're saying Internet Explorer, but it could be Edge, could be Chrome. Then we'd open up the search engine, and this particular page is focused on Bing. And so the Bing, looking at that, and you might agree with me, I'm going to say that's pretty robust, meaning, hey, it's broken the information into topics. It's giving a way to go search anywhere, drill down on that. It's offering me what's popular now. And then if I want to see more things that are trending, popular now, and then down at the bottom, instead of at the very top, is the address bar. So I can type in a direct address, Amazon.com, place I like to go, rei.com. And or I could even say men's hiking pants. Okay, and use that as a search there, search in the search bar. So kind of very robust. And then you see up in the upper right-hand corner, preferences, also known as settings. So how is that going to work? Keep my history, keep it for a while, delete my current history, allow only these websites to come through, block these other websites, so I can help mold my environment so it works best for me from a security standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint. And again, more to learn. Okay, and we're getting moving on in time, and there's so many more things I would like to be able to tell you, but again, we're limited in time. And I want to once again thank you for coming in. Doesn't mean we're done right now. No, I just want to just take a moment and thank you. And I'm also going to kind of catch up a little bit. Got it. Okay. Catch up on our who is attending. So another category of software. Okay, and I got a grimace, and you kind of go, a picture of the computer, I don't feel good. And you may or may not know your computer doesn't feel good, but you may see, oh, my system is slow. Oh, things seem to be missing. I'm getting these weird messages. Your computer is infected. I work with, of course, through New Horizons, and so I've got a set of clients that way. I've been in this environment for a long time, so there's people that I've worked with over the years, and then friends and family. I'm the guy they call. So, and I was talking to my sister, and she says, "I've got this message. It says my computer's infected. What have you done?" I didn't do anything, and in fact, I have no idea. I know she has different internet behavior than I do, but got a message, and it basically was a message malware that was kind of annoying and also basically offering to sell her a security product. How she got it, don't know. So we had to track it down, and we did find a way to correct it. Okay, but sometimes they're a lot more malicious. Actually go out and damage, delete things, go on. One of the big trends right now, of course, is ransomware. So I'm not going to steal it. I'm not going to damage it. I'm just going to go I'm going to encrypt it, put a lock on it so you can't get to it. So who am I going to do that to? Well, unfortunately, school districts, banks, hospitals. Hey, you want to be in a hospital and they can't get to your patient records? No, you don't. So we want to be careful about these things. They come in a variety of names: viruses, Trojans, worms. A good general term: malware, badware. Virus is another name, and part of it is we're trying to be descriptive about how it behaves. And in our human world, we have bacteria, little tiny organisms, and sometimes they don't agree with us, so we get sick. So we get a bacteriological infection and a viral infection. But the idea is there's a little tiny organism. In this case with computers, it's a little tiny piece of computer program that can be loaded into your program, often kind of a sneaky way, without your consent, and then it will go on and do what it was designed to do. And sometimes what all it's designed to do is show bad messages, or sometimes it's designed to link your computer to other computers. And part of what it does, part of its job, of course, like a virus, is let me spread, let me get out there more and more in the world. Software is intended to damage or disable, or how about another thing is take control or even utilize your computer. And so there are beneficial ways to link a bunch of personal computers together. And I'm going to say one of them is tracking earthquakes. Or and so you can take a 10,000 computers, put a sensor on them, and track earthquakes or track seismic events. That's kind of cool. Or you can take 10,000 computers and link them and try and solve difficult mathematical problems. And ideally, those people are volunteering their computers as opposed to you're going to just going, I'm going to use yours. Okay, great. So distributed processing. But sometimes what they're doing is they're taking control of large number of computers so they can spread their malware, or they can just go into the computer, and maybe we're not going to damage things. They're just going to steal information. Read through your logs, read through your documents, find things that can help them. Often, develop money or accomplish some other agenda. So what we'll do for protection is we would use antivirus or anti-malware systems. And the idea is that they would help protect, and then you see, and then disarm, remove those programs. And the way that they do it is they try and catch it on its way in, and look at the things that are coming in. So it's doing a lot of work. Hey, I'm going to go download some stuff, or I'm interacting with a website. So it's looking for a signature, something in that downloaded file that says this file is infected or not infected. And of course, viruses, just like in the living environment, they change, and so those signatures change. And then another way that they recognize it is viruses, malware, have particular kinds of behavior, and so they'll use more of an artificial intelligence concept to see, I can't see the direct signature, the genetic signature, but I can see that it has suspicious behavior. And other things we can do is, we know that some websites are risky, or they've been reported as being risky, so we might put them on a blacklist. Let's not go there. Your computer isn't allowed to talk to that. Or we might even say, you're only allowed to go to these particular websites, or you're only allowed to use these kinds of communication channels. So a whitelist. So that's what those programs will do. And of course, we're kind of the last line of defense. Some of the program examples, and we see Windows Defender that comes with Windows, so it's included. Avast, AVG are commercial products, and they may have a free version, so it could be limited capability or limited time. And then please, please, please buy our real product, and then you'll get more features and get better protection. And we live in a very complex world. So it used to just be, I'm going back a bit, a popular way to transmit malware would be, I got a game, I got a game program. And inside there would be a gift. And I got it for free. Okay, well, yeah, you did, but you got a gift with it. And now it's not only do I want to protect from those kinds of programs coming in, but also I want to protect from something that will plant instructions in my computer to send somebody my information or to allow other things to be downloaded. So it's more complex. Good idea to learn about these, invest in them monetarily, invest a little bit of learning time so that you can use those effectively. You kind of go, but I don't want to spend $100 on that. $100, $200, $500. I don't want to say spend $500. Let's say $100. If you take a look at your time or what that information is worth, or what to you, or what that information, if it gets out into the world, could cost you, sometimes that $100 becomes a minuscule fee. I have people that I know have worked with that their information was obtained, stolen, and other people have purchased cars, houses, great deal of merchandise, and then walked away. And the people that I know found out 2, 3, 4, 6 months later, and within our system, they're on the hook for it. And they're trying to prove, no, I didn't do this. So please be careful, so that investment could pay off for you. Little cautionary tale. Okay. Another thing to be careful of, and this is more of a behavior, phishing for information. Hey, get this free vacation. Click here. What is your name? What is your address? What's your social security number? What's your bank account number? We're going to need a credit card to hold your reservation. So phishing, reel you in. And then, of course, another way that people get that information, and sometimes they'll take it in combinations. They'll get some information and use that to get even more information. And when it says that they're going to technique that tricks users into entering passwords or account numbers, sometimes they already have programs installed. And as you type in your account number, you type in your password, you type in your social security number, it's collecting it. So you don't have to tell them, you just typed it in there, and their program has already captured it. And okay, here's Chris's information, here's where he lives, here's his phone numbers, here's credit card numbers, and here's his social security number, and let's go buy a car. All right. I don't mean to sound too scary. Another thing we need to do, and we're coming close to the end of our time, is manage our information. And so a big thing that you need to be able to work with is our file management systems. And files, of course, are the basic units of storage. And it could be a little tiny, I'm going to do a piece of text. And I have a lot of those. I was working on a class yesterday, and it's something that I can share very quickly. It's just a few lines. And other times I have Word documents and Excel documents. And then, of course, they're in subject areas because I teach classes. I put together folders that have, here's all my class information. And within that, here's the files that I'm going to share directly. Here's my presentation file. Okay, so here's the presentation piece. So that's in another folder. And then I've got, here's my original source information that I then develop the deliverable information from. And so I organize it very similar to the way I would organize a file cabinet. And so that interface includes, and you see at the top, tabs that are linked to ribbons, and that's our menu system. So that so part of my basic menu system is I might want to create a new file or create a new folder, delete a folder, or I may want to view my folders in a particular way. And see, we see big icons in this area. And then I have an area that's called the navigation area, navigation pane. So a window, and a part of a window is a pane. There we go. So I've got a navigation pane. And then within that navigation particular folder, I can see the content. So I've got a contents pane. And then we see the idea of I want to go back up one level. I want to go to my previous level, back forward. And you see that little icon for carrots. Let me open up that particular folder pane. Whoops, and I just pressed the right mouse key. So let's bring up the rest of the screen. Now, a concept that we have is libraries. And I'm sure everybody has seen your documents folder, your picture folder, your video folder. And those really are libraries. So they're not just regular folders, they're really collections of folders. So what I want to suggest is this, and most people don't do this, but kind of a pro tip is you can go off and say, I want to put all of my work information, or I want to put all of my health information, and I've got to actually, health history, health providers, I'm looking at health training programs, and I want to put that all in a library. And yes, it's all stored in documents someplace, but I've got folders for that. So I'm going to create a health library, and then I can associate those specific folders. And so if I go to my health library, now I can kind of bring all those resources in and represent them in a library. So kind of a cool idea. It's a nice organizational trick, and again, most people don't do it. I do that somewhat. I mostly use the regular file structure. And oh, by the way, in the file structure, we have a folder name / folder name / folder name, and so it's kind of like a file drawer. Oh yeah, this is my financial file cabinet. Oh, this is 2021. Oh, 2021. And within that utility, oh, Southern California Edison. And here's the gas company, and here's the trash management company. So, and I would look at that as financial information, 2021, utilities, Southern California Edison, and then within that, I'd see the individual entries. So I can see a hierarchy. And that is an organizational skill that's very, very helpful for you. Of course, you need to tailor that. Come and talk to us about how to do that. Folks, I'm going to go ahead and jump to my more helpful area. So give me just one moment. And I'm going to take a moment and go find that. Give me just a little bit of time here. Because we're getting close to where we're going to run out of time, and I'm just, again, so many things I want to show you. Okay, and let me come over here. So part of, and I've kind of talked about, organizing your work. And so there's kind of there's the interface that we work with, there's the organizational structure that we're going to need to develop. And unfortunately, if you don't do that, you're not going to get the best use out of your file system, your storage system. Things will get lost from time to time. Can you make it work? Sure you can. Then it becomes less efficient. So you're going to have to work harder. So some of the things to do, little tips, as you create things, name your files, name your folders, make them kind of hierarchical. So like my Southern California Edison, those are my monthly bills. And so at the bottom of it, I'm going to say, this is January 2022. This is February 2022. And it's going to be in the 2022 folder. And it's going to be in the SCE folder. So I can go financial cabinet, SCE folder, year 2000. And I've got a folder structure, and then eventually I get down to the actual document with a meaningful name on the file. As you work, good idea, save on the way. Now, there are some mechanisms in place that will help protect you. Learn about those. And in Microsoft products, there's a recovery feature. It can be very, very helpful. It saved me a lot of work. But if you use that and have good behavior, save uh, um, on a regular basis, that will serve you best. You'll have less lost documents, less searching around. Where did it go? Time. And sometimes what I do is I save generations of documents, or I take an existing document and I copy it. So I do a save as, change the name. Every document has to have a unique name. Know how the programs work, know how the menu systems work, and that's our ribbons. Now, the ribbon system was really promoted in 2007, first really brought out in 2007. It's been honed, and you kind of go, but it's kind of confusing, and it's duplicates in there. Yeah, there are, but they really worked hard at grouping it functionally. And also, some things you want to be able to do in one environment, like create a file folder, rename a file folder, and I may be able to want to do it in another area, just as I'm managing my folders as well. So, and I know that's true in Word and Excel and PowerPoint as well. In fact, I'm working on a Word class right now, and yeah, when I teach that, I need to be able to remember, oh, you can change that setting here, or you can change that setting there. So remember, learn the ribbons, but also learn how they're constructed, because they use a convention for that. Keep some folders on the desktop. I'm going to say don't keep a lot of them. Think about it. Do you want to walk in and have your desk piled 2 feet high? Oh, no, I need a work area. So I need to be able to find my stapler and my magnifying glass and my jar of pencils. And then I need to be able to bring out, let's work on a budget. Let's work on a family photo album. So if it's all too cluttered, I'm going to bring things in and, I've lost it. Where was it? Oh, it's under this pile. So just like that, cluttered desktop will make it hard to find things. So put them into appropriate file structures, folder structures. Things that you don't want, need. Number one, they become cluttered, they get in the way. Number two, they may actually be obsolete, and you may try and reuse it. That could be damaging, or maybe it could escape into the wild, and now you've got Chris's financial records going back 5 years. So if I don't need it, then I go ahead and delete it. If you, good idea is from a safety standpoint, back up your important things. And I back up to the cloud, Google Drive and OneDrive. And there's other systems out there. I also back up to an individual hard drive on my desk, and that runs automatically. And then even within my file structure, I often have duplicate sets. So I work on my main work files for my training work is in one area on my hard drive, and that gets duplicated up to the cloud, of course, stored on so it's actually in 3 areas. Has that been helpful? Yes. That provides me security that I can go find it again. If my computers fail, I've had that fail. I've had my backup hard drive fail. And this is over many, many years. And then the cloud backup can be very, very helpful. And you see flash drive, and that's kind of portable. The cloud backup can be very helpful because for me, it provides portability. Sometimes it's, Chris, go to Sacramento. Chris, go to Minnesota. Oh, I left that file on my computer. Wait a second. It's on my cloud drive. So maybe I'm using my own computer, or maybe I use a computer at the client's, and I just go reach up and go, got it. And then, of course, there's other technology. I can actually reach back down, connect to my desktop computer, and pull it off there as well. So I have multiple paths. Anyway, that's a little bit outside that. But the idea is I'm able to save my work, maintain it, and access it. Okay, moving on. All right. So what to do next? So come in if you want to follow up on this. Come and touch base with us. Schedule a time with our career counselor. Look at the training option program that we put together, and then see how that can be made available to you through a funding mechanism as well. That's not my area of expertise, but I know that because I actually took advantage of that process when I was in a transition period. Several ways to connect with us, and you can see through LinkedIn, through Twitter, through Facebook, Pinterest, and of course, just a direct web address, New Horizons. Specifically, and you might want to take a quick pencil paper, 714-712-1000. Go out to careerdevelopmentsolutions.com. A special kind of a side door for us, if you will. Front door, side door. And connect in with Terry Mott at NH Learning Group, my specific organization. Be happy to help you. And you can see up on top an email with recording resource links will be sent out based on this webinar. And you can reach out to us and it's in your hands. Something else you could do is if you know someone else who might be in a position where they would like to make a change, you could be eligible for a referral benefit. And there you go. Always a handy thing.